Welcome back to the Deep Dive. Today, we're going to dismantle something that I honestly think is a sacred cow for most people in business. If you're an entrepreneur, a creator, or, just someone trying to pitch an idea to your boss,
Yeah.
you have probably obsessed over this.
It's the one thing everyone tells you to perfect first.
Exactly, the elevator pitch.
Yeah.
You know the drill. You picture yourself in a lift with a billionaire investor. You have 30 seconds. You need to dazzle them with your vision, your why, your mission to save humanity. I have personally spent hours, hours, just staring at the ceiling trying to memorize a 30-second monologue about leading with the need.
It is a very romantic image, the underdog founder, the captive audience, the perfect speech. But we're looking at an article today by Dave Bailey called The Art of Writing One-Sentence Product Descriptions, and his take is, well, it's pretty brutal.
Brutal how?
He basically argues that the elevator pitch is a complete waste of time.
Okay, hold on. A waste of time. That feels like a stretch. Investors ask for this stuff. You can't just walk into a pitch meeting and, say nothing. Are we really saying the elevator pitch is dead?
Well, let's separate the pitch meeting from the real world. Bailey's point is that in the wild, where your product actually lives or dies, nobody uses elevator pitches.
Right.
Your customers certainly don't. Think about it. When was the last time you heard a regular person explain an app to a friend using some, structured 30-second script about market solutions?
Never. If my friend did that, I'd assume they joined a cult or maybe a pyramid scheme.
Exactly. Real humans don't pitch, they describe. And they don't take 30 seconds, they take about 3. Bailey suggests that if you can't get that description down to a single sentence, and specifically a sentence that explains the mechanics, you are in serious trouble.
One sentence. That is terrifyingly short. I feel like I need at least a paragraph to explain the nuance of why my idea is brilliant.
And that desire to explain the nuance is usually where the viral loop breaks.
Okay, let's pause there because viral loop is one of those buzzwords people throw around. Before we get into the how-tos of this one sentence, walk me through the mechanics here. Why does a long description break the loop?
Think of the viral loop as a game of telephone. You have a user, let's call him user A. He loves your product. He wants to tell user B. That moment of transfer is the critical link.
Right.
If user A has to struggle to remember a paragraph of nuance or vision, the transfer fails. He just won't say anything. Or worse, he'll say, it's this cool thing, but it's kind of hard to explain.
It's hard to explain is basically the death rattle of a startup.
It is. The loop snaps. Bailey breaks down how this conversation actually happens in the wild, and it's very specific. It's not a presentation. It's a 4-step flow.
Okay, walk me through the steps, because I imagine my users having these deep intellectual debates about my software over wine, but I'm guessing that's not it.
Definitely not. Step 1 is the trigger. It's almost always context dependent. 2 friends are at a coffee shop, and one of them complains about a specific problem. Ugh, I can never find a taxi when it rains.
Right. The pain point.
Then comes step 2, the tentative introduction. The friend doesn't launch into a sales pitch. They ask a question, sort of test the waters. Have you heard of Uber?
Okay, so far so good.
Step 3 is the critical moment. If the answer is no, the recommender has to explain it. Right there, on the spot.
And this is where the elevator pitch fails.
Completely. If the recommender tries to say, well, it's a multimodal transportation logistics platform that connects supply and demand, the other person's eyes just glaze over. The recommender looks stupid. They lose social capital.
Yeah, nobody wants to sound like a press release.
So instead, they need that one-sentence description that lands instantly. Step 4 is the verdict. If that sentence works, you get an, oh, cool, I'll download that. If it doesn't, the recommender has to backtrack, justify it, and usually they just give up.
So Bailey is saying that as a founder, my job isn't to teach my users to pitch. It's to give them a soundbite so sticky they can't mess it up.
You're essentially arming your users with a weapon. And if the weapon is too heavy, if the description is too complex, they won't use it.
Okay, I buy the problem, but I want to push back on the solution a bit. We're saying one sentence. My instinct, and I think the instinct of most people listening, is to pack that sentence with value.
Yep.
We want to use big, impressive words like platform, ecosystem, community, AI-driven.
And Bailey says that is the exact opposite of what you should do. Those are what he calls category words. They're vague. They require the listener to do mental work to figure out what you actually mean.
But they sound expensive. Platform sounds like $1 billion valuation.
It sounds expensive to an investor, maybe. To a user, it sounds like homework. Bailey argues for a different strategy, the lead feature.
The lead feature. This feels like we're getting into the weeds of product design, not just marketing.
They're the same thing here. Bailey points to some really famous examples. Look at Facebook. Today, we think of it as connecting the world. But if you go back to the early days, before the IPO, before the billions, Mark Zuckerberg wasn't using that visionary language.
I actually have the quote here from the source material. He described it as something where you can type someone's name and find out a bunch of information about them.
It's incredibly dry, isn't it?
It's borderline boring. Type a name, find info. It sounds like a glorified phone book.
Yeah.
Where is the social graph?
Blah.
Where is the new era of communication?
It wasn't there yet, and that's the point. Type name, find info, is a mechanical description of a single feature viewing profiles. It's undeniable, it's practical.
Then there's Uber. I remember when they launched, everyone called it the NetJets for limos or something like that.
Travis Kalanick's description in 2011 was, you push a button and in 5 minutes, a Mercedes picks you up and takes you where you want to go.
And eventually that became just tap a button, get a ride.
Notice the pattern.
It's very cause and effect.
That is the magic formula Bailey identifies. He calls it input-output.
Input-output. This sounds a bit like computer programming.
It is, but for human psychology, the formula is you do X and Y happens. X is the input, the specific action the user takes. Y is the output, the specific result they get.
So for Uber, input is tap a button, output is get a ride.
Correct.
And for Facebook, input is type a name, output is see their info.
It seems simplistic, but this structure maps perfectly to how our brains learn tools. We're tool-using animals. We want to know, if I pull this lever, what happens? When you simplify a complex product into a direct input-output pair, it creates a feeling of ingenuity. It feels like magic because the effort, the input, is so small, but the result, the output, is so big.
I see that. Tap a button is a tiny effort. Mercedes shows up is a huge result. That gap is where the wow factor comes from.
Precisely. Whereas if I say it's a logistics platform, I haven't told you what the lever is or what the result is. I've just told you the category.
Okay, but here's where I get stuck, and I think a lot of our listeners might get stuck here too. Tap a button, get a ride is easy when your product does one thing. But most modern software is a Swiss Army knife. A project management tool, for example, has chat, calendars, file sharing, video calls. How do you pick one input-output without ignoring 90% of what you built?
This is the hardest part, and Bailey has a specific method for this called chronological thinking.
Chronological, meaning start at the beginning.
Yes, but you have to be rigorous. Bailey suggests mentally or literally walking through the user experience from the very first second. You are hunting for the first unique feature that delivers value.
Okay, let's try to do this live. Let's make something up. Let's say we built a meditation app. The world definitely needs another one of those.
Sure, a meditation app.
So if I'm the founder, I want to say, it's an app that helps you find inner peace through guided mindfulness.
That's the output. Find inner peace. But where's the input? How do I get the peace? Do I read? Do I listen? Do I plug a Neuralink into my brain?
Okay, fair. So I need an input. You listen to audio tracks and find inner peace.
Better. But listen to audio tracks is generic. That's Spotify. That's Audible. Why is this app different?
Okay, so I need to use chronological thinking. Let's walk through the app. I open it. I see a login screen.
Not a feature. Keep going.
I see a dashboard with a bunch of categories like sleep, anxiety, focus.
Okay, you tap one.
I tap anxiety. Then it asks me, how much time do you have? 5 minutes, 10 minutes, or 30 minutes?
Stop. That's interesting. Is that unique?
Maybe. Most apps just give you a list. This one filters by time first.
So maybe your sentence is, you tell it how much time you have and it gives you a custom meditation to fit that slot.
Input. Tell it the time. Output. Get a custom session.
Exactly. Now, compare that to, it helps you find inner peace. The input-output version tells me how it works. It tells me the utility. It implies that it respects my schedule. It's much stronger.
But it feels so small. I'm leaving out the inner peace part. I'm leaving out the philosophy.
You are. But you're hooking the user with utility. Once they use it, then they get the inner peace. You can't sell the result if they don't understand the mechanism.
So the discipline here is to kill your darlings. You have to ignore the big vision to sell the small mechanic.
You have to earn the right to share the vision. You earn it by solving a problem with a clear input and output.
There are some traps here, though. Bailey mentions missing inputs as a big one.
Yes. This is when you promise the output without the input. A Mercedes picks you up. Sounds great, but is it a lottery? Do I have to call a dispatcher? The push a button part is crucial because it tells me the cost of the action.
The cost is low.
Right. If the input is fill out a 20-page form and the output is get a quote, that's a bad ratio. High friction, low reward. You want low input, high output.
There's another trap he mentions that I think is even more common, the generic feature.
This is the terror-inducing question.
Ominous. What is the question?
Why can't I just use X?
X being whatever they already use. Excel, email, Google.
Exactly. Bailey uses the Facebook photo sharing example. If Zuckerberg had pitched Facebook as a site where you can upload photos and share them, the immediate response in 2005 would have been,
I can do that on Flickr. Or I can do that via email.
Exactly. If your lead feature, your input-output, is something another tool already does, you lose. You are inviting a comparison you might not win.
So you have to find the mechanic that is unique to you.
Or at least the mechanic where you are 10 times better. For Facebook, type a name, see a profile was unique. You couldn't do that on Flickr. You couldn't do that on email. It was a new behavior.
I want to pivot to what this means for the business side.
Yeah.
Because we've been talking about wording, but Bailey drops a pretty heavy strategic bomb near the end of the article. He implies that if you can't write this sentence, you might have a broken company.
It's the difference between a self-serve product and a sales-led product.
Break that down.
If you can describe your product in one input-output sentence, tap button, get ride, then your users can describe it to each other. That means you can grow via word of mouth. You can have viral growth.
Because the message carries itself.
Right. But if your product is so complex that it takes 10 minutes to explain, if there's no clear input-output, you can't rely on your users to sell it for you. They will fail.
So what's the alternative?
You have to hire people to explain it. You need a sales force. You need account executives who sit on Zoom calls and walk customers through all the complexity.
Which is fine if you're selling enterprise software for, what, $100,000 a year? You could afford the sales team.
Exactly. But if you're building a consumer app, if you're building a $10 a month SaaS tool, you cannot afford a sales force. You're dead in the water.
So this sentence is actually a diagnostic tool that tells you what kind of business you're allowed to be.
It is a litmus test for your entire business model. Bailey argues that you should write this sentence before you write a line of code.
That seems backwards. Usually we build the thing, and then we hire marketing people to figure out how to sell the thing.
And that is why so many products fail. If you write this sentence first, we want to build something where you input X and you get output Y, then you build only that. It keeps you honest. It prevents feature creep.
It stops you from building a dashboard when you should be building a button.
Exactly. Every time someone suggests a new feature, you ask, does this support the input-output sentence? If not, cut it.
It's brutal, but effective.
It forces you to focus on utility over vanity.
I want to challenge our listeners to actually do this, because it sounds easy until you try it. I was trying to do it for this podcast before we started recording, and it is surprisingly hard.
So how would you describe the deep dive using input-output?
See, I want to say, we make you smarter. But that's the output. What's the input? You listen to two people talking.
That's the mechanic. You listen to a 15-minute conversation, and you learn the key insights from a complex article.
Input. Listen for 15 minutes. Output. Learn a complex topic.
It's a clear value exchange.
It is. And it forces me to realize that if we go for 45 minutes, we're breaking the promise. We're increasing the input cost without increasing the output value.
Now you're thinking like a product designer.
Okay, so for everyone listening, take your project, your startup, your freelance business, even your job role. Try to write the input-output sentence. You do X, and Y happens.
And be honest. If you find yourself using words like empower, facilitate, streamline, or leverage, slap your own hand. Start over.
And those are filler words. They mask the fact that you don't know what the machine actually does.
Empower is not an input. Click is an input. Type is an input. Upload is an input. Stick to verbs that a human body actually performs.
I love that. Verbs that the human body performs. That cuts through so much corporate fluff.
It does.
Before we wrap up, I want to leave the listeners with a final thought from your side. We've talked about the mechanics, but what's the bigger philosophical takeaway here?
I think the biggest takeaway is that clarity is not just a marketing tactic. It's a competitive advantage. In a noisy world, the person who can explain their value the fastest wins.
Clarity travels.
Clarity travels. Complexity stays at home. If you're struggling to write your sentence, don't just hire a better copywriter. Stop and ask yourself the hard question. Is this a writing problem or is it a product problem?
That hits hard. Maybe you can't describe it because it doesn't actually do anything distinctive.
It's a distinct possibility. Writer's block might actually be builder's block in disguise.
Well, on that terrifying note, we're going to leave you to stare at a blank page and question the fundamental utility of your life's work.
Happy writing.
Thanks for listening to the Deep Dive. We'll see you next time.